Welcome to the Goodyear City Council meeting. We're excited to have you be a part of this important public process. Tonight, you will have the opportunity to address City Council on both non-agenda and agenda items. The agendas and speaker request cards are located in the back of the council chambers. You must fill out a speaker request card in order to address the City Council. Please drop your completed card in the tray next to the blank speaker cards. If the meeting has already begun, please hand it to the officer. You may check the "I do not wish to speak" option on the card. This allows you to still voice your opinion on an item on the record without having to speak. In accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, please contact a staff member if you need any assistance. Public comment on a non-agenda item will take place during the citizen comment portion of the evening. These are items that don't appear on tonight's formal agenda. The city clerk will call your name when it's time for you to speak. At that time, please approach the podium and tell us your name for the record. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. The timer is on the screens visible from the podium. Note that you may also choose not to speak if other speakers before you have said what you wanted to say. Shouting, cheering, and loud noises will not be tolerated, and violators may be removed for disrupting the meeting. Goodyear City Council meetings stream live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and online at goodyearaz.gov. Follow the city's social media pages so you don't miss out on all that's happening in Goodyear. Thank you for coming to this meeting and being an active part of your city. And remember, it's a great time to be in Goodyear.
I'd like to call the regular meeting to order for March 6, 2023. Go ahead, is everybody marked in? There we go.
Let the record reflect that Councilmember Stipp is not with us tonight and all other members are present. We will need a vote to excuse him.
All right, let's see, get a motion and a second to excuse Councilmember Stipp?
So moved. Second.
Go ahead, hit your button there. Everybody in? Okay, we got a motion and a second. Open the voting. 6-0, thank you. Join Councilmember Hampton in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation, please. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, thank you for today and the ability to meet in a free country. Thank you for the honor and privilege to serve the people of Goodyear on the City Council. I ask that you give us wisdom to make good decisions that affect all our citizens and future citizens. Be with our military here and abroad. Be with our first responders as they serve the city. Be with our city staff as they act on behalf of the people of Goodyear. Thank you for your continued blessings on the city of Goodyear. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilmember. Let's see, we need a vote to approve the recommendations from the Council Subcommittee on Boards and Commissions and Committees. Can I get a motion and a second? I do have a motion and a second. Any questions for the clerk? Seeing none, go ahead and open the voting. 6-0, it passes. Darcy, would you please come forward and administer the oath to those board members that are present? Thank you.
Okay, I hope this is on. So if I could be joined here, Michael Balson, Ryan Murphy, let's see, John Cox, and Peter Delaberti. Yes. Okay, we're going to do the oath. So if you could go ahead and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of board member, commissioner, committee member, according to the best of my ability. So I do affirm. Congratulations. Thank you.
Now it's time for citizens who would like to address the city council on any non-agenda items within the jurisdiction of the city of Goodyear. Any speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor. Kelsey Kuiper.
Come on down. Let me give you a few instructions here. You may already be familiar with them, but council will listen to comments and may take any one of the following actions: respond to criticism, request the staff to investigate and report on the matter, request the matter be scheduled on future agenda. You have 3 minutes. It'll let you know when there's 20 seconds left. Please, for the record, state your name.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kelsey Kuiper. I am a resident of historic Goodyear. As you know, the city has been working on a neighborhood master plan that encompasses 5 neighborhoods. Historic Goodyear is one of those neighborhoods. As part of the initiative, my neighbors and I are attempting to reinvigorate the Historic Goodyear Neighborhood Alliance. We would like to invite Historic Goodyear neighbors to attend a meeting on Tuesday, March 14th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Loma Linda Community Center. We will be discussing our priorities and as neighbors and creating an actionable list that we can work on with city staff and departments. Once we have a consistent schedule for our meetings, we hope to see more direct engagement from the city and you, our elected representatives. Thank you.
Can you go ahead and give that information to the city clerk of the meeting? You may have some council members that may want to attend that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, our city attorney has asked that item 7 be removed from the consent, so we've removed that. Will the city clerk please read consent agenda items 2 through 6 and 8 by title only?
Approval of minutes, creation of CIP project number 60112, Goodyear WRF Master Plan, authorized related budget amendments and expenditures, Rio Intergovernmental Agreement with Rio Reimagined Coalition, final plat for Camelback Center at PV 303, approval expenditure of funds for construction of 4 fiscal year 2023 CIP projects, approved budget amendments and related expenditure authority.
Thank you. Does anyone on the council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, council, please enter a motion in a second. Got a motion and a second on the board. Go ahead and open the voting. Well, first, any discussion? No? Go ahead and open the voting. Six zero. Thank you. Let's see, we're going to go back to number 7. I-7 was pulled from the consent for discussion. The presenter is Sarah Chilton, Deputy City Attorney. Would you please come forward and present the information for the item?
Mayor, council members, I'm here to present the third amendment to a Microsoft Infrastructure Development Agreement that was entered into in 2019. Just by way of background, Microsoft acquired 279 acres down between Broadway Road and MC 85, a little bit west of Litchfield. The site was acquired August of 2018. It was zoned in December 2018. At that time, there was limited infrastructure for water and sewer, and from the get-go, Microsoft has been responsible for the construction of all infrastructure needed for the city to provide water and wastewater services. We're at the Third Amendment, mostly because Microsoft has had an accelerated construction schedule since it acquired the property. Some of you have been around since Microsoft acquired it, but in 2019, we entered into an at-risk construction permit. We usually only do that for grading and drainage, but for Microsoft, we allowed them to install foundations, utility lines, piping, before any approvals were given. It was all at risk. And before we actually knew what infrastructure. So even though Microsoft was always responsible, or has always been responsible for all of the infrastructure needed, we were kind of working on, we'll figure it out later. 2019, we also entered into a development agreement that allowed them to do a self-certification for the building plans. So we've always gone out of our way, the city's always gone out of their way to accommodate Microsoft's construction plans. But what's happened is we haven't ever really got to the point where we had build-out needs. So for the first development agreement, we came up with a temporary solution that allowed them to use an existing wastewater trunk line that takes wastewater delivers it to the 157th Avenue plant. It's about, I'm not sure where it goes from, but it's in Broadway Road. So the original plan was Microsoft was going to treat water to a potable water, not a potable water standard, a raw water source standard, so we could use it for potable water. But I think the quality of water that they were receiving made that impossible. So we came up with a temporary solution. They were going to deliver wastewater through that line, and it was going to be treated to a level of TDS level of 1,400 milligrams per liter or less. The second building came online, or the second building they sought a permit. Again, we did not have a study that included all of the infrastructure that was needed. Their schedule was such that they were looking for something that would get them under construction right away. So the second building permit was issued on the condition that they would, again, deliver water through the existing pipeline in Broadway Road, and that they would treat it so that the TDS level didn't exceed 1,400. To get that way, that line wasn't sufficient to accommodate all of the industrial discharge, so they had to do some on-site storage. Microsoft is looking for their building permit for the third building, and they're also looking for a certificate of occupancy for the second building, but the on-site storage hasn't been completed, and for that second building, and they're looking for some relief. So if we change the standards and allow a higher level of total dissolved solids to be delivered to the plant, they won't need to do the on-site storage. So their ask is, we know what the development agreement says, but we'd like to get our certificate of occupancy for the second building, and we'd like a certificate or a building permit for the third building. So staff's ask was, okay, let's see what we can do to work together and come up with a solution that's mutually beneficial to the city and to Microsoft. But what staff was very adamant about at this point was we need a build-out solution. We can no longer have the temporary solutions that we've been working on. So the Third Amendment, I believe, accomplishes what staff needs while accommodating also what Microsoft would like to see. The deal points are outlined in the staff report, but one of the big changes that has occurred is only the first 3 buildings on that site will be water-cooled. They are going to convert to air-chilled buildings, air-cooled buildings after this third building. Part of that is, as it turns out, the water that we're able to deliver has high levels of TDS, and it would be cost prohibitive to recycle and take additional water supplies needed to treat it so that the TDS level was reduced. So the first one is in the development agreement. Only 3 water-cooled buildings will be allowed. They're going to do the final engineering study. They'll identify all of the water infrastructure that's needed to deliver water to the site at full build-out. They will identify infrastructure that will take that industrial discharge. Staff has been telling Microsoft since, I'm not sure exactly when, but we have upstream development that's going to need that capacity in that line that's existing in Broadway, and that was never sized to accommodate industrial discharge of the volume that Microsoft is going to be delivering. So Microsoft will get the discharge line. We will allow them, from their operational needs, they need to have at least the ability to recycle the water that's received twice. So their TDS levels will be 1,400 or double the incoming TDS level that they receive. So that gives them what they need, and staff in Public Works was comfortable with the ability of the plant to handle even that slight increase. The dedicated discharge line that's going to take the industrial discharge from the plant up to, or from the Phoenix 1011 site up to the wastewater treatment plant, is going to need to be completed by August 24th of 2024, and that's when we anticipate other users are going to come online. There is a temporary solution I'll get to that if they can't meet that deadline, what they can do to accommodate that need. The plans have changed where they were originally going to send us or treat water to a level that we could use it as a raw water source. But now, because they can't do that, they're going to be using wastewater treatment capacity. So they're going to make a contribution of $36 million towards the plant expansion cost that will be adjusted, and that's based on anticipated needs to take 1.2 million gallons per day. We calculated the deposit based on the money that we anticipate. We're planning a 3 million gallon a day expansion and just came up with a figure for the dollar gallon. Our impact fees don't contemplate the kind of discharge that we'll be receiving, which is why we had to treat it separately. This will require the city to reimburse them for the impact fees that have been paid because they're just paying for the cost of the treatment capacity. They will make that payment before the building permit is issued for the third building. And if they require additional treatment capacity, they'll pay the difference, or if the costs exceed the 90 million that we expect for the 3 million, they'll pay that difference. Obviously, it'll be adjusted downward, but whatever they pay for, that capacity will be available to serve that property. We also wanted to have some assurance that the discharge line and the water lines would be done, and wanted some upfront financial assurance. Microsoft has agreed to give us a $5 million deposit, and that's based on a very rough estimate of what we think will be needed in terms of the linear feet for the discharge line and what would be required for any additional water lines. Again, once they have a design and we have actual numbers, we'll take that $5 million, we'll establish an escrow with First American Title or some escrow company like that. They'll use that to pay for the construction costs as it incurred. The other thing Microsoft is doing that we're hoping, everybody is very positive and hoping that will alleviate some of the issues that we've had, is they're committing to pay $800,000 for the city to retain for a 2-year period, kind of a facilitator of all things Microsoft in the city. So it will, this person will be working not only on the Phoenix 1011 site, but also the Phoenix 70 site. And they'll be trying to coordinate inspections, what the submittal requirements are, what you need to do to make sure your submittal gets through as, in the first review or, with minimal comments. So they'll work with staff to have pre-app meetings to discuss issues that might come up, or if issues come up, they'll be the single point of contact between the city and Microsoft, because when you have a big project like this, you often have too many cooks in the kitchen, and there's a disconnect sometimes. So we're thankful that they were willing to put this kind of money up for a 2-year period. We'll enter the contract, and then we'll use those funds to pay that contract. Again, they're going to pay us. We have to get the wastewater treatment expansion completed. And once once that discharge line is done, they'll take everything out of that line, and all that industrial discharge will go through the directed line. And at that point, they'll have, I think, I told you, the TDS level would be allowed to be 1,400 milligrams per liter, or 2 times what's coming in. So they'll have their 2 cycles. Let's see. There is a provision that they've always said, that Microsoft always said, if they exceeded a certain level of water supplies, that they would provide the water supplies. We think we have it. They've already given us a grandfathered irrigation right that was converted. So we think that with the change in the operations, they've already provided the water supply. But if it does exceed, they've agreed to pay for us to acquire additional water supplies that we may need. The temporary solution that will be allowed is that no discharges from the 3rd building will be going into that discharge line. But the discharges that go from the first 2 will be allowed to go up to 2853 TDS levels. And the reason for that is what is needed for the double right now. They will take that discharge, and they can discharge up to 500,000 gallons per day. Anything in excess of that, they'll have to store on site. So even when that line is completed, we'll still be taking the same 500,000 gallons per day that we've already committed to. It'll just be transmitted to it through the discharge line. Anything else that is in excess of 500,000, they'll have to store on site till the plant expansion is done. Then once the plant expansion is done, they'll start funneling it through back to the city. So it took a long time. I think everybody thought it was painful, but I think we came up with a solution that gets us where we really needed to be, which is, should be pretty much full build out if they're not going to do any more water cooled. So I think staff is happy with where we're at with this agreement. Microsoft is putting up a lot of upfront cash. All of those deposits have to be made before the building permit. So I think we're in a good place. I think the hiring of the independent facilitator will help work through some of the issues and the angst that everybody's experienced with the projects here and up on Phoenix 70. So we're very positive, and staff is hoping for your support to approve this amendment.
Thank you. Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Anybody in the audience like to speak? Come on.
Mayor, council members, Cameron Carter with the Rose Law Group here on behalf of Microsoft. I just want to take a moment and first thank Sarah for her comprehensive presentation, and thank your staff for the close work and extensive work that they've been doing together with Microsoft. As Sarah had mentioned, from the initial agreement, the Infrastructure Development Agreement, or IDA, that we entered into in 2019, we always contemplated that we would come back with an amendment that would comprehensively address all of the infrastructure that's needed for the campus build-out. Each of the buildings, the data center buildings that Microsoft builds on this campus, represents an over $300 million investment, capital investment in building on that campus in the city of Goodyear. And so Microsoft is excited to get its second data center building online, and then to proceed with building 3, and then onwards to 4 and 5 and so forth. We're excited to continue working with the city and for the level of cooperation that we think is going to be increased with this liaison role that we're establishing. It'll help Microsoft and the city work on this site, on the 1011 Goodyear Air Park campus, as well as on the other site here in the city. So we appreciate your consideration and hope and ask for your approval tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk, can you read the resolution? Number 2023-2295 by title only.
Approving the Third Amendment to the Infrastructure Development Agreement for Project 1011, authorizing and directing the city manager to execute the Third Amendment, providing authorization for future actions and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Will the council please enter a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2023-2295? I see a motion and the second on the screen. Open for council discussion. Vice Mayor, you're up first.
I want to say that this project with Microsoft was a big deal and continues to be a big deal for our city. And it's probably a lot more challenging than we ever would have imagined. And if we knew then what we know now, we probably would have saved ourselves a lot of work. But I appreciate how accommodating we've been for Microsoft's needs and changing their business plans and things. And certainly you've done a lot to work out temporary solutions. I think it's important, though, that we don't neglect the city's needs as well. And to that, the piecemeal approach has been a little bit of a challenge. So I think you're on a right track to get this working well. And so I think the plan you've identified to identify all the infrastructure and work it all out is very appropriate and probably long overdue. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Councilmember Hampton?
Yeah, I also just want to say thank you for all the hard work that it took to get to this point here. I know when Microsoft first came, we were very excited. We still are, and we wanted to get them going as quick as they could. So I know we were really helping them, and that's how we kind of got to this point here. So I do appreciate all the work with staff and also the Microsoft coming to the table and helping us with providing the right solution for all parties as well. So thank you for that. Yeah, we're looking forward to Microsoft being a continued employer, engaged employer in the city of Goodyear too. So very excited about that, and looking forward to just continuing to get built and be online and provide data services. So thank you.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yeah, Sarah, is Phoenix 11 the second building?
Yes, Phoenix 10, Councilmember Campbell, Phoenix 10 is the first building, Phoenix 11 is the second building, and we're looking to permit the third building, which would be Phoenix 12, which is hard to.
But we're not discussing 12 right now, we're just talking about.
The building permit for 12. The development agreement would allow us to issue that building permit for the third building, and it would require those deposits be made up front. And then we won't issue any certificates of completion or certificates of occupancy, temporary or permanent, for that third building until all of the infrastructure needed to serve it was completed.
So is all the infrastructure totally completed for building 11?
No, for Phoenix 12. Phoenix 11.
No, 11.
Phoenix 11, they were going to do some on-site storage, but if we allowed them to deliver industrial discharge with a level of total dissolved solids to 2853 milligrams.
Yeah, you said that.
Then they didn't need to do the on-site storage.
Right.
So they're doing that temporary solution where they're using the existing sewer line, wastewater line in Broadway for the time being.
And that's not is that the one we don't want them to use?
That's the one they'll need to be out of by August 24th, 2020, or August 31st, 2024.
So that the new developments can use that?
Yes.
And there's not going to be any damage to it or anything?
No.
I just hate giving anyone a certificate of occupancy if they're not completed.
Yes.
I don't like doing that because we're rewriting all of the rules. So if we're doing it for one company, we're going to have
Yeah.
to do it for all of the companies.
Yeah, so,
I don't understand that part.
well, that's normally a development requirement, a standard that the infrastructure has to be in before
Before
you give a
yes,
certificate of
I know.
occupancy. You wouldn't necessarily hold up building permit holds. You wouldn't hold up building permits for
If
that.
they don't have the infrastructure in, it's just okay?
Because they should be building it at the same time, so it comes online before you get that occupancy.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Lortano?
Sarah, I want to thank you for all your hard work on getting this across the finish line, and I appreciate the cooperation that we had with Microsoft, and I think that's very important. It shows how cities and businesses can work together for basically what's a win-win situation. We're glad that they're in our city, and we're glad that we're able to work with them, and we're able to move this forward. And I really do like that we're switching to the air-cooled. I think that's really going to be helpful with the situation with the water. So very much thanks to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can appreciate all the hard work that went in this back and forth in the hours, and the fact that you were able to come to an agreement to move this forward. It's a major project going on in the city of Goodyear right now. I appreciate Microsoft's cooperation, I appreciate city's cooperation, and I appreciate the meeting of the minds happened so that you can move this project forward. So thank you. I'm sure a lot of hours went in to get this thing done. So with that, thank you. With that, I don't see any further discussion. Can we open up for voting?
So what does that mean?
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
No, if they come back for another extension.
I would like to remain counsel to wait for a motion and a second for discussion. We have a first business item up. On the business, consider approving proposal to Gila River Indian Community for Arizona Revised Statute 5-601-02, 12% gaming distribution fund. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, Mayor and members of the council, good evening. I'm Jenna Goad, the assistant to the city manager, and I'm filling in tonight for Christina, who unfortunately is not feeling well. Per the city's grants policy, this is a request to submit 3 grant applications to the Gila River Indian Community for their tribal gaming grants program. These grants do not require a local match, and the applications must address one of the tribe's stated priority areas, including economic development, education, healthcare, public safety, and transportation. The staff solicited interest from the various city departments, and there were 2 prospective projects that came forward, both in the area of public safety. One is a request from the Prevention Division in the Fire Department seeking $35,000 to purchase the Bullseye Digital Fire Extinguisher Training System to improve and enhance fire extinguisher training. And the other is a request from the Police Department seeking $151,000 to purchase a drone with enhanced capabilities, including an increased battery life, zoom, and clarity. We did speak with a representative from the Gila River Indian Community, and they indicated that nothing would necessarily prohibit both of the public safety applications from being approved. And because the combined amount of the funding that we're requesting is relatively low, staff does recommend that we submit both of those applications. The first resolution that's on the agenda tonight would authorize the submission of both of those city applications, as well as the actions to enter into a grant agreement and receive the grant funds if they were to be awarded. Additionally, the Southwest Valley YMCA has requested that Goodyear agree to serve as what they call a municipal sponsor for an application that they intend to submit in the transportation category for their YOBUS program that they are expanding to Goodyear. This is a volunteer-driven program that has been operating in Ahwatukee for 22 years and assists seniors with transportation, friendly visiting, household assistance, and social interaction. And the YMCA is requesting a total of $75,000 over a 3-year period. While eligible for these grants, as I mentioned, nonprofit organizations must secure what is called a municipal sponsor in order to apply to act as a fiscal conduit between the tribe and the nonprofit entity. The Southwest Valley YMCA has requested, their request was evaluated by city staff, and it does meet the criteria for municipal sponsorship that we have specified in our grants policy. So adopting the second resolution on the agenda would signal the city's willingness to serve as that pass-through entity, and should the YMCA be selected for funding, then the city would act as that fiscal agent. We anticipate that the grant awards will be made in August, and then funds would become available in October. And with that, Mayor and Council, I would respectfully request your approval to submit these grant applications, and I will do my best to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Anybody in the audience like to speak? Seeing none, City Clerk, please read Resolution 2023-2293 by title only.
Adopt Resolution Number 2023-2293, authorizing the submission of 2 public safety applications for State Shared Revenue Grant Program funds to the Gila River Indian Community, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents relating to said applications, and authorizing the city manager to execute a grant agreement if grant funds are awarded, and authorize the city manager to approve the required budget transfer if grant funds are awarded.
Thank you. Will the council please enter a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2023-2293? I see a motion and a second on the board. Open for council discussion. Vice Mayor?
Jen, I just wanted to say thank you for agreeing to be a municipal sponsor for the Southwest Valley YMCA, and also I hope that we will have future opportunities for community organizations that we can serve in that capacity.
Thank you there. I don't see any other further discussion. Can you open the voting? Passes 6-0. Let's see, will the city clerk please read resolution number 2023-2294 by title only?
Adopt Resolution Number 2023-2294, supporting the submission of a transportation application by the Southwest Valley Family YMCA to the Gila River Indian Community for State Shared Revenue Grant Program funds, and authorizing the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds as a pass-through grant.
Thank you. Will the council please enter a motion and a second to adopt the resolution 2023-2294? I see a motion and a second. Request to speak? Seeing none, no further discussion. Would you open the voting? Motion carries 6-0. Last item on business consider is the fiscal year 2023 payment management projects. Thank you there, Jenna. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the public, please.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm Hugh Biak, City Traffic Engineer. With me this evening is Brian Harville, our Street Superintendent. And we're here to present to you our fiscal 2023 pavement management projects. Give you a brief agenda of what we'll be discussing this evening. First, we're going to discuss our pavement condition results, then our treatments for fiscal year 2023, then following that, our treatment locations, and then closing with our recommendation. So just a brief description of Pavement Condition Index, otherwise abbreviated as PCI, is our overall condition of the pavement within the city. And this is something that is collected by a consultant approximately every 6 to 7 years, and we collect it on our arterial streets approximately every 3 years. It's rated on a scale from 1 to 100, 1 being very poor and 1 being essentially a brand new road or exceptional. When we first began our current pavement management program we have today, which is in fiscal year 2014, our PCI rating for the entire city of Goodyear was 68.1, which is again, not 100, not at the top, but again, a reasonable number, so to speak. And then most recently, when the entire city was inventoried in fiscal year 2022, the city had a PCI rating of 76.4, which of course is an increase over our initial program in 2014. And with that, I'll turn over to Brian, who will discuss our pavement treatments. Brian?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We'll be treating 72 lane miles, 72.48 lane miles of roadway this year. That is 6.45% of our current 1,124 lane, lane miles. Residential streets will be surfaced with a polymer modified master seal. This is a surface seal that is designed to protect a surface that is already in good condition and help minimize existing crackings. We will be applying a micro surface to our arterial and collector streets. This product is designed to reintroduce fine aggregate to an aging surface while adding strength, sealing the surface, and minimizing existing cracks. This slide demonstrates a roadway surface before and after a micro surfacing treatment. As you can see, this road had significant cracking prior to treatment. And while they will return, the goal is to have reduced and minimized the cracking. This next slide demonstrates before and after of a PMM surface seal. There is some cracking. The goal is to guard against water intrusion into the pavement and to minimize the existing cracking. This is the north map of our project area. We will be treating the orange-colored roads with a microsurface. This is West Campbell Ave, North La Maroma Drive, and North Sedea Parkway, which is in our Sedea neighborhood. We'll also be treating Pebble Creek Parkway from Charles Boulevard to Camelback, and West Thomas Road from Litchfield Road to just west of ECM, or Estrella Community College. The green neighborhoods are those that are getting the surface seal of a PMM. Those include Desert Vista West, Desert Vista East, Sunrise, Desert Breeze East, Desert Breeze West, Paseo Verde, Trevicia, Enclave, Highlands, and Foothills. This next map is the central city area. These roads will be getting a microsurface, North Cotton Lane from Yuma Road to the 303, West Yuma Road from Saraville to Estrella Parkway, West Celebrate Life Way from Bullard Ave to Litchfield Road, North 143rd Ave from Yuma up to just north of Celebrate Life Way. West Test Drive and West Auto Drive has a circle around from Litchfield to Litchfield, and North 137th Avenue from Van Buren to Auto Drive. In our EMR area, we'll be microsurfacing Estrella Parkway all the way from Vineyard up the hill to Elliott Road, and then Elliott Road from Estrella Parkway back to just west of San Gabriel. And the surface seals in that will be the Vistas, the Enclave, and the Palisades.
Thank you, Brian. So our cost summary for these projects is for asphalt microsurfacing in the amount of $2,321,781. The cost of the asphalt surface seal of $1,157,008. And then ADA ramp improvements, which is the concrete ramps on the corners at the intersections, or these, not the intersections. Well, they are at the intersections, but along the roadways we're treating, in the amount of approximately $200,000. And this comes to our fiscal year 2023 project total of $3,678,789. So our staff recommendation this evening is that council approve expenditures in the amount of $3,678,789 to complete our fiscal year 2023 pavement management projects throughout the city. And with that, I'll answer any questions. Thank you.
Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Anybody in the audience like to speak? Seeing none, excuse me, would the council please enter a motion and a second to approve fiscal year 2023 payment management projects? I see a motion. How about a second? Oh, I see a second, okay. Go ahead and open up for discussion. Councilmember what do we got here? Nope, Hampton's up first, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the team. Having great roads, I think, is a hallmark or what our residents expect. So I appreciate it. Definitely raises the level of our community up, and I think it definitely shows that we care and that we're maintaining our roads, and it's something that every resident uses. So I appreciate all the hard work. I'm looking forward to it all being done. There'll be little inconveniences for the residents as they're getting them done, but I think it's very much needed, and I appreciate continued effort to maintain this program and these projects. I had a quick question on, I couldn't see it in the results or in the agenda here. What percentage are we using HERF money, and which percentage is general funds? I just see that it's 3.6, a combination of, or do you know what percentage of that is from the HERF funds or versus general funds? Sorry if I'm giving you a dumb
No.
question, but.
No, Councilmember Hampton. When it comes to HERF for us, no, HERF is, I'm stepping on the finance area, but HERF is also supported by general fund, but we call them HERF funds as it isn't a HERF account, if that clarifies. So it's mostly from the HERF side, but it is, just have to caution, HERF is, again, subsidized by general fund. We're not fully sufficient on HERF to operate.
Yeah,
just alone.
I didn't think we were, so I was just curious, because I know that number is going down every year, the HERF fund, because less people are driving or electric cars and things like that. So I was just curious what percentage, but I can get that later. So, but no, I appreciate everything. Like I said, this is definitely an important thing, especially for our residents, our visitors, and having high quality streets is a good thing for our city. So thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Well, you know how much we like to talk about our streets. And keeping them well maintained is so critical, and always look forward to this, your annual plan. I'd like to know how the lane miles that you're going to do, the 72.48, compared to previous years. Are we expanding, or are the costs limiting it, or just, are we consistent?
So this year, we did see a significant increase in cost. So this is, I think last year we had 130, this is not exact, 'cause my memory's not that great, somewhere around 130 lane miles. Like I said, we saw at least our cost triple this year because of the oil cost.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, that makes sense, but thank you. I just wanted to know how we compared. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Campbell? I mean, not Vice Mayor, Campbell, we'll get you. I just promoted you.
So Hugh, I have a question on Litchfield Road, our favorite road. I know we bricked it up 3 or 4 times and we kind of fixed it. Do you think we could take a look at it maybe? Well, number one, do we know if we're done with more infrastructure going in on Litchfield Road? And whenever we think we're done, maybe we can put that in the next plan, whatever year it is, to smooth out where they continually fixed it and then redug it and then fixed it and redug it, so.
Yes, Councilmember Campbell, I will definitely look at it. I believe there is still some ongoing work for,
I think so too.
in various areas. I know there was some work up near Litchfield, near Thomas, which was I believe, Southwest Gas affiliated. And then on the south end, there have been some various projects. One developer on the west side of the road, just south of Old City Hall, I forget the name of the development. And then I think there was some other work happening near the intersection of Litchfield and Van Buren.
And we've got some up by Wigwam too, in that
Okay.
area, so.
Oh, that's right.
We've
Yes.
got that
Thank
whole
you.
area that's all, that's,
So those areas that were cut up or disturbed, per how the process works, because it's a utility and the pavement was cut prior to, was it 3 years, Brian? Prior to 3 years, they have to come back, or that the areas which they disturbed, they have to come back and reseal those areas.
Right, uh-huh.
Some of those areas I don't think have happened yet, because there's still some utility
no,
work
they
ongoing.
haven't, but they will, I'm sure.
Yes, they'll do the areas in which they disturbed. They won't do the entire roadway, but they
Right.
will do in vicinity of where they disturbed.
Right, but we'll be checking the entire roadway, so when it comes time, we'll be able to make it smooth as the pictures were.
Yes,
I would think.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. We
You're welcome.
appreciate that.
Councilmember Loretano?
Well, thank you both very much. I know this is something that our residents like to have done. What is the, I guess, the cycle? So how many years, if your neighborhood's done or a neighborhood's done, until it's done again? And is that cycle then expanding because you said there were higher costs, or what's that cycle usually?
So our goal in the neighborhoods are 7 to 10 years. We're almost to the point of having treated most of our neighborhoods at this point, and we're starting to retreat some of those. So some of them that had more of an aggressive treatment 7 years ago have already started to get some treatments that are a seal coat or something just to prolong that life of that product. So I don't see it, I don't see it going from 7 to 10 years.
Okay, so about every 7 years, we still have enough.
Somewhere between 7 and 10. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your work.
You know, from my perspective, what you do is so important because it allows the roads to last longer. That's why you do this. So you don't, if we don't do this maintenance, what happens is over time, you're gonna have to rip the whole thing up and start from scratch. So I appreciate that. But to piggyback on Councilmember Hampton's question on, I believe our general fund money is significant that goes into this. And the reason why I'm asking that is unfortunately down at our state legislature, we got people that like to spend other people's money and they try to go after some of our local sales tax. The reason why I'm mentioning that is this type of project is critical, and what we use is our general fund, which mainly half of it's what? Sales tax that helps pay for this. So that's why I can't stress enough how it is important for us to maintain that control and to maintain those revenue bases. Otherwise, we may not have the ability to do what you gentlemen are doing there. Go ahead. How much money?
Yeah, I was trying to look it up. My computer shut down on me. But it is, as you said, the vast majority of it is actually general fund revenue. HERF doesn't even cover the ongoing operations of streets, let alone any kind of capital and ongoing maintenance and repairs. So it is mainly general fund dollars.
And when you say our general fund operating revenue for our local sales tax is roughly 50%?
At least 50%,
Okay.
correct.
So that's why it's so critical, and that's applying to those that are listening in on here, that we be able to maintain that control, because this goes towards, this is just one of the projects besides our first responders and public safety and our rec program. This is an important project that is using that funds because the money HERF typically does not have enough to cover it. So that's why it's so important for us to maintain that control. I'll get off my soapbox, but that's why I feel so strong that we need these revenues, and I would really appreciate legislators understanding how important this is to us. But I appreciate what you're all doing to get the roads improved, and thank you. With that, what do we have here? We got a motion, we got done with speaking. Let's go ahead and open the vote. Thank you. 6-0 post. It's done. Now, with that, any council members have any comments they'd like to add before we close up? Don't see anything? No? You're good? I want to personally thank Councilmember Campbell for covering for me for the Mayor's Choice Award at the, the high school this weekend. You picked out a lovely choice for that, and I appreciate you doing that. Thank you. With that, does the city manager have anything for us?
Oh, yes, we've had a busy week.
Okay, let's go for
The
it.
first ever Mind Over Mat Yoga Festival was held Saturday, March 5th at Civic Square Park. We had over 500 yogis participating in 2 one-hour sessions. So music was provided by Live DJ, and the event included 360 photo booth, Zen Zone, massage table, and free swag. So we also held the Goodyear Farmers Market on Sunday, March 6th at Civic Square Park. Over 1,000 people dropped into the event to enjoy booths from 30 local businesses and 5 food trucks. Again, live music by Prime Society, and the farmers market will be held every Sunday in March. And last but not least, we held an education fair in the square, which it didn't end up in the square. It ended up inside because it was Wednesday when it was so cold and rainy and everything. But it was a great event. The project involved several city departments, including Human Resources, Economic Development, and Neighborhood Services, 17 exhibitors from various educational institutions, and 10 speakers covering a range of topics. Despite the inclement weather, just over 100 attendees participated and helped to answer questions from both high school students and working adults.
Thank you.
That's
a
it.
lot.
That's a
Very
lot.
busy. Did you have the yoga? Did you hit the yoga?
I did not do the yoga. My arm's still kind of sore from that first.
Well, with that, the next meeting will be March 20th at 5 p.m. With that, no further business. Meeting's closed.